Welcome back to the Zyori podcast. Hello, and thank you for joining us here for podcast number 91. It is March 7th, 2016, 6 o'clock p.m. here on the Eastern Coast. I had to cheat because I actually had no idea what day it is, though we've got St. Patrick's Day right around the corner. Next big holiday coming. It's JD's birthday is on St. Patrick's Day, by the way, so we're going to party hard. So, obviously, we're here in the wake of the Shanghai Major. We're not going to talk about Dota so much in this podcast. I've been saying we're going to do more podcasts that are not as esports related. We're going to touch on the Major just a little bit. And we are going to talk about games, just not in the same capacity that we're used to. Certainly not on the level of last week. I think I got a lot of good stuff out there, and then shit really hit the fan as we got towards the main event. So we'll leave that for what it is. Today, we've got a fun one. This is Organic Farmer Dan. We talked about him 2 weeks ago. Carlo was hyping him up during the milk conversation. There's a lot of topics I want to cover tonight, Dan, but you have a pretty cool, diverse history. You're a gamer. That's how we know each other. You know, games are a great connector. Back in the days before social media, Diablo 2, the original Facebook.
Yeah.
It's what it was all about. And then this is like until you moved here, we're roommates now. How long had it been since we'd seen each other? 8 years? 9
8
years?
or 9 years, something like that.
Like high school age. Like
yeah.
my first set of dreads age, which was a bad time. It was a bad time for everyone.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Your mom said that to me. She's like, well, last time I saw you had dreadlocks. And I was like, man, I had dreads not that long ago. And then, oh, wait a second. The high school dreads, the 13 dreads, total dreads. I don't know why I did 4, but
I saw you before and after dreads.
Yeah.
That's how long I've known you.
Wow, man. We go way back.
Way back.
It's good. It's good stuff. So, but for the last year, you've been living on an organic farm, doing the entire thing from dirt to plant to harvest.
That's correct.
From egg to chickling to chicken to fucking dinner, man.
Not from egg, but from day old chick all the
Okay.
way up through
Day old chick.
eviscerated chicken.
Eviscerated chicken. It's pretty sick, man. So before we get into your stuff, though, Dota, you actually just played your first. Was that your first game of Dota 2?
First game ever of Dota 2, yeah.
Okay. So what was your general feeling post game one?
So
you did the tutorial.
I did
though,
the
right?
tutorial, and I killed it as Sven.
Okay.
I was all right. It's a lot harder against real people.
Yeah.
Especially because I picked Dazzle. Only because there's a picture of him on this wall that you can't see.
Yeah.
But
right
I picked
over.
Dazzle because he was a cool troll, and I thought I'd do some team support, and I got reported, right? Because that happened.
That happens to
That
everyone.
shit happens in every game. And I was just catching a lot of flack from the team for
Harsh.
basically being in the wrong place at the wrong time every time, and getting killed by the bear.
Ursa?
Ursa. So
Lone
Ursa
Druid?
killed me like
Ursa.
that every time. It was cool to experience, I guess, in game what I saw on.
Well, what prompted you to play was that you actually watched a game of the Major with me.
I did.
And you, I mean, you had played Heroes of North a little bit. You probably played Dota 1 at least a few
Dota 1
times
in
on Warcraft 3.
Yeah,
So you're you're at least familiar with the
I know
whole
the concept. I just
right.
don't know the
mechanics of the heroes. Yeah. So that kind of was like, well, this was surprisingly fun to watch. It was also a good game. I think it was the EG Complexity Game 1 of that final series that they played. And it was a super action-packed. It was over in like 20 minutes or something. It was pretty bloody, I think.
Yeah. Seemed like it.
So those are fun games to watch. The long, slow ones can be equally exciting, but it's more nuanced. It's a little bit less visually engaging, I guess you could say. So, that was cool. And the Shanghai Major just wrapped up. It ended kind of okay. Secret won over Liquid. It was a pretty exciting tournament just in general to see two top teams so of the 6 teams, 2 of them were top 6, 2 of them were North American, and 2 of them were Southeast Asian, and then the 2 Euro teams, of course, Secret and Liquid. Pretty cool. That's unprecedented. Never happened in the history of Dota to see that many SEA teams and North American teams in the top 6 at a Valve event. Those have traditionally been the weak regions. It's all about Europe, CIS, Russia, China. Those regions are generally the powerhouses in Dota. So maybe a sign that times are changing. We're on a level playing field. I don't know. Good stuff for potential storylines, that's for sure. A reminder that Moonduck is going to be covering that C Kappa tournament that starts, I think, on the 12th, actually. So that's coming up in less than a week. Fnatic's going to be participating, so seeing them in the top 6 now adds just a cool layer of competition on that front. So you don't give you're just
I stopped listening.
No, it's good. No, I'm glad. It's every time I talk to my parents about this stuff, they say honestly it sounds like you're speaking another language. Is that what it's like watching a cast when you don't really know the items or the heroes and you're just kind of like
I sort of intrinsically understand what's going on, but
I guess that's true. You're in like that mid tier where you get the basics, but
like ninth grade Spanish when I should have gone through like all 12 plus a semester of college.
Yeah,
that would have been like the appropriate level of analogy for what.
Fair enough. So I think a lot of people are glad the event's over. It was a disaster of an event in general. Lots of tech issues and lots of bullshit. And China has kind of a rough reputation with events. A lot of them have been kind of shitty, especially for Westerners that aren't used to the culture and the kind of conditions there. And this event was just awful on that front. A lot of problems. A lot of people got sick from the pollution. A lot of technical issues with the stream going up and down, quality, and kind of sucks. We're talking about like a $3 million tournament. A lot of money on the line. People can't even fucking watch it because the stream's not stable. They fired the host 2 days into the main event because he made some inappropriate jokes.
It's pretty impressive.
The CEO of Valve posted on Reddit that he is, quote, an ass. We fired him because he's an ass. Wow. You were actually surprised to hear that Valve is the company that makes Dota.
I did not know that. Yeah.
You were like, Valve, that company that made like Portal 1 and Portal 2 and Half-Life. I'm like, yeah, the company that makes Dota that invited me to TI5. I know those guys. Yeah, they're pretty cool. Yeah.
I was surprised.
Because you've played the Valve games. I actually haven't played Half-Life. I'm embarrassed to say that out loud. People get upset when I say that.
Disappointed that he hadn't. Half-Life 2 is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
For how old it is and how fun of a playthrough it is on single player every time I play it. I mean, it's only been like 3 times, but every single time it's been...
I'm never into single-player games, but so many people have unequivocally... I don't think I've ever met somebody that's been like, man, Half-Life sucks, man. Half-Life 2 is just a shitty game.
I don't think I've ever played the full way through Half-Life 1. So I've done all of Half-Life 2 from beginning to end.
Do the stories arc together, or it's totally different?
Yeah, I think they arc together, but you can get through 2 without really playing 1. They fill you in.
Because I played like the first level of Portal 1, and then I got bored because it's single-player. And it's like, oh, this is cool.
It's hard.
Like, I get it. Like, I get why this is fun for people, but... I just want to go online and fucking kill shit. Like, that's my motivation in games. Like, Halo, I remember when I bought Halo 2, fuck the campaign. First thing I did was load up Xbox Live and start shooting. I want to know where I rank on the ladder. I want to know that I'm better than people. There are people better than me. Gives me something to aspire to.
Yeah, I get that.
What, are you a storyline kind of guy? Is that your jam?
I appreciate a good storyline. That's why I think Dota's sort of hard to get into for me because you don't...
There's no storyline.
There's no story. I don't know how any of those characters
You're just
got
fucking
there.
slaying. Well, a lot of it's jacked up now because it was based on Warcraft lore, and Blizzard owns the IP for all of that. So Valve isn't allowed to use anything that's Warcraft related. So there's a number of heroes that have had their names changed, like Elder Titan. That used to be Tauren Chieftain in Dota 1.
But it's the same basic image?
Similar. Big oafy guy. That now the lore behind him is he's like a Titan of the galaxy or something, so he's some big celestial bitch. I don't know. He's got a long ponytail. He looks kind of like a retarded Tauren. I mean, you see the resemblance. Earthshaker, obviously modeled after a Tauren, but his name now is just Earthshaker. He's just some, I don't know. Every hero has some lore, but a lot of them are really stupid.
It sounds unsubbing because you never played Half-Life.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I'm sure that person didn't sub to begin with, but still, there you. Yeah, it's bad, man. It's a hard thing to admit in a nerd community.
Yeah,
people get defensive about Half-Life.
As they should.
They're passionate.
That's all right.
So, and Windrunner. That's another one. Now she's Wind Ranger. Change it. OD, Outworld Devourer. He used to be Obsidian Destroyer. You know those Obsidian statues? The birds to fly out of them? Yeah. So a lot of them, they got around it by just using... Like, in Dota, every hero had 2 names. Like, Puck, the Fairy Dragon, or Sylvanas, the Drow... Her name wasn't... Or Traxx, the Drow Ranger,
Yeah.
Pudge, the Butcher. So they just used the name that isn't copyrighted. So, now she's Marana instead of Priestess of the Moon.
Is Pudge still in there?
Pudge, yeah, his name's Pudge.
All right, good.
Big fatty cake Pudge. He looks like an abomination still, just big fatty.
All right.
Fatty fat. Like Puck the Fairy Dragon, he's just Puck now.
I don't remember any of these characters.
Yeah, well, some things are... It's weird where it's interesting to think about where they draw the line of what is IP. Like a Tauren is a completely made-up creature unique to Warcraft universe, but they have fairy dragons, but... Can you say that Blizzard owns the word fairy dragon? Not really. I mean, do fairy dragons exist outside of Warcraft? I'm sure there are examples. I can't think of one because I'm not
life examples.
Real life examples. You know what I mean? Real life books and shit.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
No? Okay. Well, Puck is a fucking Shakespeare reference. Midsummer Night's Dream. The Robin Goodfellow Puck. He's the troublemaker. He's the little...
Not familiar with it.
All right. Well, just throwing that little tidbit out there. So, but we know each other from WoW, though. That's the game that we really bonded over.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that and Diablo 2. But
Diablo
it
2,
transitioned very quickly right into WoW.
And what I liked about, what I like about WoW people is that I still like that game a lot, but you have some connection to Dota 2. Like, there's a lot of heroes that are from that universe as we're talking about. Yeah. So at least when you see it and play it, you kind of get that feeling of, okay, I sort of... It's naturally nostalgic in some ways, so you can connect to it.
I'm okay with that. Okay.
Have you played every WoW expansion?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So
I've played like more than probably 50 days on each WoW expansion.
Okay.
Easily.
Okay.
Some probably more than that. Wrath of the Lich King I played well over 75 days on an account.
I played a lot of Lich King. That was a good one. That was where I stopped though. I drew the line at Cataclysm. I couldn't do it anymore.
Cataclysm sucked. That's why it was not a good expansion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the current one's pretty good.
I had fun playing each and every one for what they were. I never got overly hyped for them, but
when I think of you as a WoW player, the first thing that comes to mind is I want to change what my character looks like. I think you have changed your character's sex, face, race more than anybody I know.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
I mean, yeah.
So what's your favorite? Like, what if you had to play one class, one race, one faction for the rest of your life? What are you?
Probably a dwarf.
A dwarf, okay.
Yeah. I've always been a big fan of dwarves, but you had to pick for racials when you played WoW like that. Right. So it wasn't always an option. I'd happily go dwarf, hunter, or paladin for the rest of the time, but...
Dwarf, hunter, or paladin? I never played a hunter.
They're... interesting. They're fun. They've changed so much from when I used to play.
Yeah,
Warcraft,
it's true.
Intensely. Now they're just.
They used to be the obnoxious class that you had to try really hard to you had to fucking catch pets, then you had to feed your pets, then you had to make sure your pet was wanked off, and you had to do all that. You had to make sure you had arrows. You had one less bag slot because you had a quiver.
Yeah.
That's Jesus.
I liked all that. That was entertaining to me. I don't know if we were playing a different.
I mean, is arrows really a needed mechanic for a game like that to be good? Like, Jesus Christ.
It didn't take away from it. It definitely added to it. Since then, they took away the little animation where you actually pull the arrow out.
Really?
So that bothers me. I'm playing for a certain element of not realism, but at least quality animations. I want to know that.
No, I mean, I always liked the way WoW was animated. I always felt like it had that. It was just cartoony enough. When League of Legends first came out, it was too cartoony. This looks like a stupid comic book game. And Guild Wars is kind of that, it's so realistic that everything looks homogenous.
Yeah, they missed.
And WoW is, what's cool about it is I feel like every class has a very distinctive look. They decided, okay, warlocks are this kind of dark sort of, mysterious creatures. Mages are very, all about the arcane. They're there's a lot of, particle effects, and, warriors always had this really sick kind of spiky, tough, there were motifs that fit every class really cool.
What I like about the WoW art in that respect is that every expansion and every class set and everything like that has been increasingly more sort of getting in line with what you were just talking about, whether it's the dark and twisted nethers of the warlock or the warriors just spiked and gladiator look. They really, I think, did a good job over the years getting more in line with that. When I see a new paladin set, I'm like, that makes sense. Of course they should have a big giant cross and a bladed circle around their head. That's a cool set.
It gets hard after a while to keep coming up with new really cool sets for there's kind of diminishing returns over time in terms of what they have to pay artists for really good creative stuff versus what they can recycle and do pretty easily. But
they've recycled a lot.
I felt like Tier 2 was the epitome of that's what I think of as classic WoW. I can picture every set perfect. Tier 1's a little underwhelming. Yeah. Tier 3's kind of weird. Tier 2, Blackwing Lair, that was the epitome of WoW for
Absolutely.
me. That's what I transmog to,
But the shitty part about then that they don't have to experience now is that you had to have all of those pieces of gear to look that way.
Right.
You had to actually amass all of that judgment set or...
Right. Well, now they have the void storage, so you can put it all in fake storage.
I've filled every single slot in void storage, bank. I just walk around full bags just of items to transmog into. I've spent a ridiculous amount of gold just trying to look that nostalgic WoW way.
Trying to look cool, man.
Yeah, looking different.
It's all about the threads. All right, well, that's fair enough. But you haven't only played WoW. You're one of those gamers that plays a medley. You're like, that's an area where we're opposites. Like, I've played like 6 games really hard, and everything else kind of like, yeah, I've seen people play it, but I don't really give a shit. And, like Skyrim. I know it's a good game. I'm not going to say it's not.
Many hours logged in Skyrim. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
I'm sure it is.
Especially if you mod it correctly, you can have a blast in Skyrim.
No, it's not for me, man. I got to slay shit. I mean, I like the grinding part of WoW. It's therapeutic. It's a good break from Dota, but if I had to pick one, man, I like the slaying. I like putting people down. I like that feeling of winning, being like, man, that bitch was talking shit 20 minutes ago, and now he is dead without buyback because I'm Necrophos with an Ag Scepter. Get fucked. Like, that is such a that satisfying feeling. It's unmatched.
Rarely
it's
achieve that in any other video games except WoW PvP when I'm an
it's
overpowered class. When you're overpowered and geared, God, there's nothing more satisfying than going into a Warsong Gulch with my brother and 3 friends and just mopping the fucking floor with them.
That's what Dota's all about, dude. Because Dota is literally a miniaturized arena version of fucking World of Warcraft. Like, slightly more mechanics, obviously more variation across heroes, but you've got that same general premise. You've got a guy that you level up max 25 instead of 64 spells instead of 37 or whatever. And if you have a good early game, if you farm faster than those other idiots, if you kill them 10 times before 30 minutes, you're just a big fat overfarmed hero smashing people in battlegrounds, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very similar feeling, and you don't get it from most games when you're just like, I deserve to be better than you right now because I worked my ass off for these items, bitch. Like, that's
I can get behind that. When I got to what, like 20, close to 2,500 when that was like kind of a big deal in the earlier arena seasons. Definitely not anything really good, but it was crazy how much work you have to put into getting there. It was like working a second job.
My only like WoW achievement that I'm actually somewhat proud of is when I played on that arena realm with Pete and JD, and we got like there were different rounds to get
remember
eliminated,
that,
and we made the cutoff for the top 1,000, and then after that the cutoff was like top 10 or something. It was super intense, but top 1,000 was like, I was pretty happy with that. That was like to qualify for BlizzCon. There was a fuckload of competition. You had to play minimum 300 games, I think, and we played the cheesiest comp ever. It was double healer survival hunter when explosive shot was broken as shit. God, dude, I played a resto shaman, and Pete played like hybrid ret holy. So he had some extra stuns or some shit, and we just outlasted.
Is this vanilla?
No.
BC?
It was Lich King, I think. It was Wrath. So it was, I don't know what season that. I guess that's like season 5, season 6, something like that.
That's right around when I was doing really well. But my class was so broken that it was just it was hilarious to log on and like kill 6 or 7 people in like 1 or 2 divine storms.
Right in the middle of that arena season thing, when we got the Vanquisher titles, was when they fundamentally changed warriors. They were complete ass until then. Fury was the build, and that was like right when they introduced the double two-hander shit where you could dual wield two-handers, and then they buffed arms again, and that was when they added where you had 2 charges. You could charge in combat now, and there was all this other shit, and it was like, oh my god, warriors went from ass tier to fucking amazing tier overnight. Which is one of the drawbacks to games like that. That like in Dota, when they buff and nerf heroes, even if it's a hero you play a lot, you can always just play another hero. In WoW, if you're playing a hunter and it's like, great, hunters are overpowered right now, you're destroying everybody. Well, the opposite is true when hunters are the worst class, and you're just like, god damn it, why am I playing this game?
I've played some of those intentionally, and that happens. You play it, and you're like, fuck it, I don't care if hunters are bad. I'm playing one still.
Like, this is me. This is my class.
And then you do it anyway, and you just get worked. But the truly good people can find ways to sort of bypass all that, and that's how classes and comps get made. I feel like where you don't expect to see that survival hunter, but holy shit, they're good with X.
Yep. I mean, that's what I tell myself when I do crazy things in Dota. I go Spectre mid, and they're like, this is stupid. Nobody does this. I'm just like, exactly. They're not going to see it coming. They don't know what to do against it. And they're like, but how
they're
are
not going to be looking for
Spectre
Spectre mid.
Yeah, I'm just
whatever
like,
that
I don't
means.
know. Look out for Spectre mid, guys. Dan's coming in hot with God, I love it. So God damn it. I could reminisce about WoW all day long, Dan, but
We're
let's talk about food a little bit, man.
here for more serious topics, huh?
We really are, because you have a unique level of insight that most people are not in touch with, and it's weird because so much of human existence has been completely in touch with that hunter-gatherer thing, where it's like you either find food and kill animals to eat it, or you die. You know, like you're part of that cycle, and
Yeah.
it's pretty recent in our evolution that we can just not really think about that, go to the grocery store, get some shit wrapped up in plastic, and go, nom,
Stay inside
nom,
and play Dota all day.
Exactly.
It's not
dude.
been able to happen for a while.
Dude, we're at the point now where I could just drink Soylent all day and get all of my nutrients, all of my stuff, and it's literally just this milky shit like Slim Fast that you drink.
Like in the Matrix?
Yeah.
Does it taste like
It's
runny
not,
oats?
It's not. It's not sloppy. You know, it's like it's a true beverage.
You don't have to eat it with a spoon.
No, you slurp it down. It's like just a milkshake or whatever. But that's next level. That's too hardcore for me. That takes you way too far out of the cycle, I think. But I guess to start at the beginning. Where did you get even interested in working on an organic farm? Because that's not even something I think most people consider as a career path.
So I was working in restaurants,
Like
in the
waiter?
kitchen. No, in the kitchen, cooking.
Oh, okay.
For more than 6 years. So working every day with food. Almost none of it was organic or pasture raised or farm to table style food. It was just your sort of big box companies, your Tysons, your Smithfield Porks, your just U.S. foods, vegetables and stuff. So just generic run of the mill.
Okay.
Probably all of it had GMOs in it, but not necessarily a terrible thing when you realize what some of them do.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other tangent. But mostly it was just sort of your big box food. So I was working in the kitchen. It's most people who have ever done that, and it's sort of a different style of living, but it burns you out pretty quickly, or you just realize you're going to get it kind of sucked into it for the rest of your life. So I decided to make a change and start looking at organic farms to work at, and I found one that was really, really appealing. I don't know if I should say the name or not.
I mean, it's up to you.
Privacy purposes.
It doesn't really. It's.
It was a.
You can just say where it is. That's.
It was an organic farm, not sort of sanctioned organic farm. They didn't have to get USDA organic, you have to meet all sorts of qualifications that they just chose not to sort of abide by. And the idea was that if you sort of explain to your customers that your food is grown without pesticides and you do things humanely without following certain government laid out guidelines, that they sort of understand the process more. So that was, it was style, but it was not like a hippie farm. It was not like
basically
a commune.
The idea is if you're transparent with the process, then getting the USDA label doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Okay.
There was no point of sort of abiding by this standard set of protocol for keeping your pig. Let's just use that as an example. For keeping your pig to be certified humane free, it had to sort of be inside. When it was inside, which shouldn't really be ever, it had to sort of be in this enclosure that had like parameters for how thick the concrete was and where the drains were located. And the way we raised our animals, you didn't really have to think about stuff like that because they live outside their whole lives. Right. And they don't need veterinarians. They don't need pesticides for their food. They don't need hormones for growth or any other reasons like that. They were just pigs that live outside.
Right.
And eat and reproduce, and then we eat their young, and we have a selective breeding program for just about each of our animals that, it wasn't anything incredibly scientific. It just made sense. You just do things a certain way because it just seems like the right way to do them. So that's sort of the style of farming, but it was also, pretty profitable for the area, which was central North Carolina, sort of in the Piedmont area, right around Durham, Raleigh, and Chapel Hill.
The Tech Triangle.
The Tech Triangle. So that was our audience. So we were able to charge sort of more per item of food because the people in that area were able to afford it.
Okay. So did you guys do mostly local shipping, or does it go all over the country?
So they had a sister company that did like the online farmers market where you could sort of buy just about all of our items and then some, all locally sourced, and then they would ship them internationally.
That's pretty cool.
But mostly it was within a 75 to 100 mile radius of the farm.
So that model that you're talking about of it's an organic farm that's sort of based on common sense rather than USDA line by line standards. How rare is that in the grand scheme of organic food that you're eating?
Pretty rare.
Pretty hard to find.
So this is all stuff that I gathered while there. I don't know this,
Right.
I've not read this in like a peer-reviewed paper, but
Okay.
this is
Disclaimer, Dan is not a peer-reviewed journal.
In the sort of farming community that I was involved in, there are people that know a fair amount about sort of how these systems operate. For instance, let's use like Walmart's big push to get like organic stuff into their farm or into their produce section. They want to have organic spinach. They want to have the same organic spinach in every single Walmart across, let's like use the Southeast as an example.
Right.
So every Walmart's going to have the same spinach, probably sourced from the same farm or one that does it organically, but doesn't sort of have to abide by what we would consider organic. So they're allowed to use some approved fertilizers. So where do they get this fertilizer? It's from chicken shit from Tyson. So Tyson will sell them chicken shit as fertilizer that has like high levels of cyanide in it. So there's things that are pretty shady. And again, I don't know if this is all true, but it makes sense that this sort of industrial farming conglomerate would try to work within its own borders to get things done more economically so that they can provide spinach to every Walmart in the Southeast and make a fuckload of money.
Yeah, it reminds me of that. Like, it's very analogous to the concept of that tribe mentality. Like, there's probably a proper word for it. There's that certain number of people that if you're below that in a community, the idea of communism actually works because there's so few people that you actually know everybody. You feel like it's a community and you have this kind of social obligation to not be the lazy one because everyone else is working hard and you're obligated by that social contract to contribute and be constructive. And I think it's like 180 or 250 or somewhere around there. And once you start to get over that, the larger that number is, the more you start to need to develop that idea of like policy and things that are more black and white and rinse and repeat and ways to deal with stuff more efficiently in mass. And that's basically what industrial farming is all about. So Walmart is like trying to find that tipping point of what is the closest we can get to organic while still using our industrial business model where we get things in bulk, where we cover an entire region of the country from one supplier. And part of it is just efficiency. To get truly organic stuff, they don't want to have 100 different vendors to fill the whole country. They'd rather have 5.
Yeah,
it's
the
just
chances of getting
easier.
something different than what the customer is expecting, it diminishes when you have less vendors.
And so they just want to find the cutoff point to how can we say that this is organic. And for them, it's kind of just a marketing buzzword. Yeah,
the same with, when you look at a case of eggs are hilarious. And the evolution that eggs have gone through as a sellable product in the organic world, from pasture-raised to free-range to any sort of buzzword that you can think of has been on an egg case to sort of promote these eggs as our chickens live a happy life and go out and do stuff every day and then come home and lay an egg because that's what they ought to do. Most of their chickens are in factory settings. It's not economical to do the way we were doing. We were charged $6 a dozen for our eggs.
And what's the normal price? More like $3, right?
Something $3 or $4. So a few dollars difference on eggs every week, it adds up to be a lot of money. But they don't. Not they, but most people don't understand sort of the cost of food, what it takes to sort of raise that egg. And between the chickens and the coops and moving them around so that they're not just sort of in one area, that they get to move all over the farm, to gathering the eggs, washing them, dozening them, it makes sense that that's what a dozen eggs should cost. Maybe not that exactly, but eggs shouldn't cost 99 cents unless you do them in a setting that promotes a 99-cent egg model.
Yeah.
So most farmers aren't able to do that because most farmers doing like what we did, you have a really hard time making ends meet.
Yeah. And one of the things that you and I watched I think a couple days ago or like a week ago was the guy that owns the farm that you were working at talking about that sort of industrial farming business model that we were just referencing and how farming used to make sense in the cycle of life, so to speak, and now that's kind of broken down in our attempt to try to make the whole thing more efficient. I think that's kind of what.
That's basically what he was talking about in the video. There is a TEDx talk. His name's Richard Holcomb. If you want to look him up, it's a pretty interesting talk, and it sort of summarizes a lot of what I've been talking about here. But that was his model. It's farming that makes sense, and when you're there doing it, it's work that makes sense. So I worked every day outside, all day, all conditions for, let's just call it was 11 months, but let's call it 365 days minus Sunday. That was my only day off. And block of like a week or two for the holidays.
Right.
So other than that, I've been outside every day, sun up to sundown, working.
And it's different from other jobs in the sense that if you're a software developer, for example, if you call out for a week or you need time off, it's like that maybe the product slowed down a little bit, but people can pick up the slack, and there are ways that you can work around things, even if you're essential to the operation. Running a farm is like you can't just not wake up and feed the horses one day. You know, you don't
have that option.
It's literally every day there's work that has to.
There's a hurricane rolling through right now, and I'm out here fucking feeding pigs and then chasing the pigs when they escape their enclosure because a tree fell on it. So that was a whole day outside in the rain, just getting pigs back into enclosure, or working 7 or 8 hours on a cow that had injured its leg, and we were trying to sort of save it instead of resorting to doing a home kill and trying to salvage as much meat as we could. Obviously, we had to eat it; we can't sell it. But that was sort of the work that I was. Aside from picking vegetables and making CSAs, and doing wholesale accounts and going to farmers markets, there's also the demanding. You have to be there for these animals. You have to be there for these plants. You can't go away on a vacation for a week and go down to the beach and fuck around, because you're going to come back and all of this stuff that you've invested so much time into is going to be dead.
Well, and there's an odd amount of like problem solving and critical thinking that you don't often associate with farming. Like that stereotype is kind of like the illiterate farmer, so to speak. And it's like things break, shit happens, and you just have to react and fix stuff with what you got. Like there's no formula or manual for how to fix shit on a farm when it breaks.
Usually not. And if there is, it's by people that have had that happen to them before and they remember how to do it. To be fair, that stereotype is
sort of real.
Not sort of real, but there's a certain level of education that you need to be a farmer on sort of that basic level. And basically, the more educated you are in that field, probably the better farmer you're going to be, unless you're sort of restricted by finances, which I know people who are fucking brilliant. Like, I'm talking Moorhead scholars brilliant, and they're farming, and they can't sort of breach that financial gap because there aren't places that want to loan to a small first-generation farmer.
Right.
He doesn't get to do things the way he knows how to do them, because if he wants to get into cattle farming, why not go out to Texas and farm, 80,000 head of cattle at a CAFO and make some serious money?
Yeah. I mean, that whole aspect of the industry has had a lot of problems with big business. Again, I mean, Monsanto's the big one that people point their finger at, but they're the ones that have found a way to leverage that demand of what you're talking about of, hey, somebody somewhere needs startup money to buy the equipment for a farm. It's one industry where, like, some of this kind of stuff, like content creation or esports, as long as you have a computer, you can make stuff that you can put in front of people and get feedback and make it work. You can't just start a farm without equipment. Like, you got to buy tractors. You got to buy, there's shit that you need to make it work. And I've seen a couple things that talk about that the debt trap that a lot of farmers get stuck in.
Yeah, it's scary. That's why so my, I guess, original plan with going down there and learning farming was eventually owning my own land one day, and at least having a foothold in understanding some of these, I guess they're sort of basic understanding of, what it's like to work all day on a farm. But, I had never experienced that, so this was sort of my test to see if I had what it takes, and I do. Right. I could certainly go out and do this for the rest of my life, but I can't afford to do this for the rest of my life. It sucks. I mean, that's like the most frustrating thing, is that, like, I know I could be a fantastic young farmer, and I know that I could sort of make a big difference, not in the world, but at least in my community and with the people that I'm interacting with, at farmers markets or wholesale accounts or working with restaurants or anything like that. You can make a big difference, but when you're restricted financially, it's incredibly just demoralizing to know that
it's tough.
I'd be wonderful at this, but I'm not going to make any fucking money. I'm going to be in crushing debt for the rest of my life.
I don't know, man. Maybe you need to go West Coast. Go check out California. I feel like the more I'm over there, the more I see restaurants that advertise how all their food is locally sourced. And like San Francisco, all those hipster cities, Portland, Seattle, man, they're serious about organic farming up there.
And they should be. I mean, it's one of the biggest myths that I think that we've sort of debunked at that farm is that you can't feed the world like that on that scale. You can't feed a community on 50 something acres of farm, doing all different stuff from animals to vegetables, maybe even a little fruit. It's not scalable to the population that we have, and that's not true. If all the farmers farmed the way we do on the same amount of land, we could easily feed the country and probably most of the world.
So the model is like, instead of having one big farm, you have a lot of kind of local, sort of like, you ever see that movie Biodome, sort of like individualized domes that are somewhat like, one of the big things that he talks about in the TED Talk that I'd never even thought of was what he called the poop problem. Where when you move to that industrialized farming model of having segregated, like, okay, this guy does soy, all of this guy does corn, this area does cattle, this area does chicken, is when you have an organic farm, you create this cycle of shit where the cows poop and it becomes fertilizer, then you use that fertilizer to replant stuff, and you create a cycle where you can keep regrowing stuff on that land.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I had heard, like, there was I was for like 6 months or so, I was a vegetarian when I was in university, when I was in undergrad. And I remember someone telling me that, like, if everyone was a vegetarian, shit would be really fucked up, because soy is such a staple of that diet, and soy is terrible to grow. Like, it sucks all the nutrients out of the land, and after a while, the dirt is just useless. And that didn't really make sense to me. I was like, how does soy suck more nutrients than other plants? But it makes sense in the context of what we're talking about, where if you have land that you only grow soy on, and it's not part of a biodiverse environment, it becomes dry of nutrients. And I'm sure that's true for a lot of other plants.
It's true for most things that we grow. Yeah. Most things, we couldn't grow tomatoes in the same field each year because of the risk of disease and blight or anything like that, or just the lack of nutrients to properly grow a tomato.
Right.
So we'd have to sort of rotate our animals and our vegetables. And it wasn't a sort of standard. I mean, you don't have like a map, like a flow chart of like tomatoes was here, peppers can go here, or carrots can go here, or this. I mean, pick one. It was sort of what we were able to sort of make happen. Whether it was getting an animal to go to a certain location, because just because you want to move sheep to a new field doesn't mean it's going to happen the way you think it does.
Right.
So if you're not good about segmenting your land and working with what you have, then it doesn't always flow in that pattern that you imagine it flowing in. But having done this for years, they were really good about working their land. And every year, apparently, they just get better and better and better at understanding how their piece of property, which is 55 acres of pretty good fertile ground, can be utilized, because 55 acres does not equate to 55 acres of usable land.
Right.
There's roads, there's forest, there's just places that you don't want to fucking farm.
Right.
It's just not good area for it.
That makes sense. One of the other things that he said that really resonated with me was the idea of like having enough information to choose. And I think that's applicable in not just food, most importantly food. And one of my pet peeves isn't the right word, but like motivations for sort of getting into like a more health oriented mindset, as well as like doing more of these kind of podcasts where we're talking about this stuff, is I feel like food is criminally forgotten about. And I have anecdotal experience in terms of esports events where like gamers are notorious for having bad diets, Hot Pockets, Cheetos, that kind of stuff. And there is some truth to that stereotype, and not just with gamers. Like, there are a lot of people, especially in America, that don't realize how unhealthy they're eating. They think white bread is not a bad food for you. And it's like, white bread's pretty fucking terrible. It doesn't really give you much for the amount of sugar and calories it gives you. There are a lot of like juice. That's another great example. People think orange juice, it's fruit juice, there's fruit in it. It's just orange flavored sugar water. That's all. Like, it's not healthy. Having some of it in moderation isn't bad. It's not one of those. You miss out on all the fiber and all the good shit that literally makes your shit come out in a solid form. So it's just a lot of misnomers. And like I really like the Joe Rogan podcast, and he's talked about a lot of things that have changed my perspective on this stuff. But one of the most fundamental things that he said that I'll never forget is that it's all fucking chemical reactions. Your whole body is just one big chemical yield. What you put in changes what you get out. If you load your body up with nutrients and kale and ginger and fucking all these healthy things like omega-3s and lower your omega-6s, like, it changes the way your brain works. It changes the way you process things, your energy, your ability to think critically and react to stuff. And like, it actually makes a difference. I've done some anecdotal experimenting of skipping breakfast, having just coffee, having a protein for breakfast, having just a carb for breakfast, and protein fucking matters, man. You know, just loading up on sugar, it affects the way you think, and it affects my ability to cast and work in a live environment. And almost every event I go to, it's like, hey guys, we got soda and pizza for dinner, donuts for breakfast. It's like, I literally, if I eat these foods 3 days in a row exclusively, I'm just gonna feel like shit and want to vomit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting to think about that concept of choice and really thinking about what you're putting in your body and knowing where it came from. And that's like the big battle.
So I guess if I can expand on that, sort of what one of the most enjoyable aspects of working on the farm, aside from all the work, was the food that you get to eat.
Oh yeah,
so
just every day
there's
having
sort of a connectivity with knowing that the salad that you're eating for dinner is fucking delicious, because most people that farm also enjoy cooking,
right?
Because they enjoy sort of, like I said, the connectivity with your food. So not only was the food outstanding every time I had it, but you took pride in knowing where your greens come from. You took pride in knowing that your chicken lived a pretty fucking awesome life, all things considered, for chickens in this world.
Yeah.
And 12 weeks of life doesn't sound like a lot, but when you compare it to sort of the industry average of like 5 or 6 weeks of life, 12 weeks is not so fucking bad.
Yeah.
That's like a lot of running around and just, I mean, at the end of 12 weeks, I feel like these chickens have lived like pretty good chicken life. So we don't feel bad ending it and then turning it into food that most people have had chicken.
Yeah.
And most people don't know where their chicken comes from.
Yeah.
And they don't see the environment that it's raised in. Chickens smell fucking horrible.
No,
if you've never experienced
I've smelled it.
300 chickens, it is
awful.
Terrible.
It's eye-watering.
The shit is just, it's very ammonia rich, and you feel like nauseous working around them daily, like changing their bedding and getting them food and water. They're horrible. Yep. I cannot even wrap my fucking head around how bad a large metal ventilated building still smells with hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of chickens.
It's awful, man.
I can't even begin to imagine how bad that actually. Same with hog farms and huge cow farms. It's gross. It's like, it comes back to the shit problem, because you know, if you ever waded through 5 inches of pig shit, it smells fucking bad, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Hundreds of thousands of animals making that same smell on that scale. I can't wrap my head around why someone would think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So knowing where your food comes from, like you were talking about earlier, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
The food tastes better because it is better.
And it's, you know, it's easy to sound preachy with this stuff. And I think what hit it home for me with what he said was that it's okay if you choose to say, no, cost is my biggest motivator with food. Like, I just don't care. I choose not to care. I want the cheap stuff. Give it to me. That's fine. You know, I can at least respect that you chose, even though I think it's the wrong decision. But not having food labeled, not knowing where it came from and having any idea and just assuming it's all the same, that lack of transparency, that's what's kind of scary. That's
like that just happened a few weeks ago with Walmart's Parmesan cheese. Their Great Value Parmesan cheese.
I missed that. Like, what happened? What was the?
I don't know. Somebody sued the company. A customer, I think, sued Walmart or like the company that's providing this cheese, because it was like more than 10 or 20% cellulose. It was just ground up wood.
Oh my god!
it was just cellulose. It was just filler, and they labeled it as naturally shredded cheese or some combination of words that gave you the idea that some little old lady is scraping this cheese into a bag for you, and it's not just being...
Put a picture of Granny on the front.
Exactly.
This great mental image of, I remember that time Grandma grated cheese. It was so good, and it's nothing like this.
I have one of the most, I guess, sort of fucked up, but dark humor aspects of like these big factory farms is how they've perfectly captured the image of like what a farm should look like, and this is what you should imagine when you think of our spinach here. But it's not. They've done an incredible job putting that quintessential picture on the front of their image to show you like, this is where your milk. This is milk. Someone wanted to talk about milk. This is where your milk comes from. Yeah. It's not. It's a horrible factory where your milk comes from.
Yeah. The milk thing really makes sense to me. Like, I started. You ever just go down one of those rabbit holes where a light turns on and you just start Googling, you just start like plowing through articles? I had that with the organic milk thing a couple weeks ago, and it really makes sense in ethos with in logos with that idea of what you put in is what you get out. You know, a cow that only eats corn its entire life, its milk should taste different from a cow that ate grass and like moved around and had muscle. Like, you know, like it should taste different because that cow had a completely different chemical process in its body, and it does taste different. Like I could, like 10 out of 10 every time blind taste test tell the difference. I think.
Have you ever had raw milk?
No.
Probably not, because it's fucking illegal.
Raw milk's a weird one, and I mean, raw milk from the kind of farm that you're talking about is different from raw milk if it is legal because of that Walmart tipping point that we talked about. Raw milk is really dangerous when you when you know, like what you say, you don't know where your milk comes from. It does, like, you could sort of picture like from udder to filter to some pasteurized shit to your glass. It all just gets mixed into these giant big tubs, and it's all mixed together and cross-contaminated. So once you look at that threshold, no matter what the region is, if there's any contaminated raw milk in there, like, I don't know, kids die, like having kidneys removed when they're like 8 because of raw milk is pretty fucking scary.
So someone just said cows can't eat just corn, they will die. And that's true. And that's why all of the cows that eat just corn are fucking sick and would die inevitably. Yeah. They cannot eat corn. It fucks with their teeth. It fucks with their digestion. They're a large ruminoid animal that was never evolved to eat corn.
Corn is really heavy in sugar. It's just fucking like you're plowing down sugar. If you ate nothing but corn, you wouldn't have teeth after a while either.
It'd be bad.
You know? It's bad news bears.
So yeah. That's why those cows that eat corn, they just slaughter them because it helps pack on weight real quick, and then fuck it, just kill it. It's gonna die anyway. It doesn't have to be healthy. Just pump it full of hormones so that it passes inspection and it looks like a big healthy animal. But in truth, it's not.
And then they chop it up, send it to Walmart. They glue the pieces together to make the steaks look awesome.
Yeah.
And you grill it up, and you don't know the difference because you season it up with Montreal steak seasoning that you bought over the counter, and you can't taste the difference. And you're just like, that was a delicious, salty adventure.
Yeah.
You know, smoking cigarettes, pounding 60-ounce sodas. You don't even have taste buds anymore at that point.
What does it fucking matter?
Your brain is so, like, your mouth is an ashtray, and your brain is just all hopped up on sugar, thinking about its next fix too quickly for you to process what you're even tasting. Oh, God.
It was different there, man. It really was different because you got to experience life without that sort of constant pressure of sugar, that constant pressure of eating. It was a very different eating experience there.
My parents one set of my parents did the South Beach diet for a little while, which is, of all the kind of gimmicky diets, is one of the better ones, though I would say it's definitely not perfect. But one of the things that they told me is it's all about resetting your taste buds. And I didn't really know what that meant until I left California and came back here and stopped eating out 5 days a week. You know, but if you have like Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, Wendy's, like those kind of restaurants, like basically every other day, you really get addicted to that sodium and that fatty, carby taste. Like you crave it. And if you don't eat it for a few weeks and you suffer through, you eventually don't crave it anymore.
Yep.
You really do get addicted to sugar and sodium, and you don't realize it until you cut it out. You know?
It's hard though. Everything in it has
fucking hard.
Quite a bit of sodium.
I mean, I still cheat sometimes, but you know.
I'm not perfect. I've been eating this. I ate this way for a whole year. I also went to Bojangles. Shout out to Bojangles because it's fucking awesome.
You know, you're not the first person who's.
You never had Bojangles?
I don't get it.
You're missing out on a huge part of, Southern culture, but Bojangles for like that region is.
I don't get it.
Streets ahead of all of their competition.
Okay. I went to MagFest in like 2012, and it was in DC, and we drove to Virginia, and the guys over there were just like, "You never had Bojangles? You gotta try Bojangles."
Gotta have Bojangles.
And
dude.
I got the whole fucking works. I had 2 sides. I had the mac and cheese and the biscuit, and I was just like,
you know where you went wrong? You didn't have bow rounds and dirty rice.
Bow rounds and dirty rice.
So potato rounds are their hash brown circles.
Okay.
Unless some idiot made them. They're going to be good every time.
But
French fries are usually bad.
Okay.
But the dirty rice, whoo-hoo, is good.
But what's so good about it? It's just...
I don't know. It's just...
The seasoning? Like,
good
it's really...
seasoning and...
All right. So Bojangles really is onto something
for fast
special.
food, and this is all in the fast food world, ladies and gentlemen. Let the record show.
Relatively fast food. Relative to Mickey D's.
It's way better than anything else down there.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have to give Bojangles another try. You ever been to a Piggly Wiggly?
Of course, I've been to Piggly Wiggly.
I've only heard rumors of Piggly Wiggly.
Oh yeah, Piggly Wiggly. That's in like.
It's like the Wawa of the Carolinas, right?
Not quite. It's like the Safeway of Carolinas.
Oh, okay. So it's a whole...
Or like an Acme.
All right.
It's
It's
like
a whole
shittier grocery store.
Acme's so bad. It pains me to think that I went to Acme for all of my groceries.
Yeah.
Like when I lived with Jen, that was when I first started grocery shopping when I was in college. We only went to Acme. We went to Acme the other day compared to Wegmans, and it is awful. The only thing they had better, their organic milk selection was better. They had a few varieties where Wegmans only has one choice.
We would go to Food Lion.
Food Line.
Food Lion. Or
Ooh.
Food Pussy, as we'd call it.
You know, I want to like Whole Foods.
I have never set
I
foot
don't
in
know
Whole
if I
Foods
can.
in my life.
I keep reading all this negative PR that they've got going on where they like hike their prices a lot and they don't treat their employees that well. And
They also do the whole like
it's a lot of
threshold
marketing.
of organic and marketing. Just
Yeah,
to make it
it's
seem
not-
like you're getting the best.
you can get some good shit there.
Yeah.
And that's why it's weird because it is a good store relative to a lot of the others, but they do all this weird, shady shit that I just like, if you guys would just fuck off and do the normal thing that everyone assumes you're doing, like, why don't you just do
Whole
that?
Foods is so expensive and it's horse shit.
Yeah, it's
Fuck
overpriced. It's really
You
expensive.
don't need to pay that much for
Wegmans
any of
is
those
cheaper,
products.
and it has, like, the same selection.
Yeah.
Go fucking Wegmans.
Or find a co-op. Co-ops are pretty ballin'.
Yeah.
You're gonna pay a little bit more, but you also get a lot of savings.
How do you get hooked up with a co-op, though? How do
You
you
just gotta
that?
find like a local.
Just,
So there.
just gotta find it.
So in
networking.
Durham, it was pretty hip. I don't know if it's like a more hip thing, but you can find like the Durham Co-op or the Weaver Street Market.
I don't know if
Co-op.
that's so hopping in South Jersey, but I don't know.
Probably more than you'd think.
I guess we're central
Shit's
Jersey
out there.
now.
You just gotta look for it.
Yeah, you're right.
We get
I really-
Amazon Fresh here. You could probably. I'm going to.
That's
I'm gonna start going to that market in Philly. That big giant like.
Oh,
several
Reading
block-
Terminal Market or whatever?
Yeah.
I'll go with you,
I'm
man.
going
That,
there
that
this
place is
weekend.
popping.
I'm gonna try to get a job there. Actually, I'd like to work
Really?
there part time as like
That'd be fun.
something. I want to be the guy that like catches the fish and throws it on down.
Oh, yeah.
Middle guy for fish throwing, so I get to throw
Fun
fish around.
Fun fact, first date I ever went on OkCupid, I went to the Reading Terminal Market. Not a great place for a first date. A lot going on, but
Yeah.
I felt obligated to buy stuff that I didn't want. It was kind of weird. I would like to go again, just not on a first date. I want to go with you, Dan. I think that would be fun.
That'd be fun.
It would be good stuff. They've got really good fudge there. Really good fudge. I'm a big fudge guy, and I don't get fudge that often because it's just straight like sugar and fat and butter. Like it's not what I need, but I love it,
Yeah, it's
and I'll get it. You get a bucket of fruit every week from your job, and I
do.
love you for it. You know, I want it. Like, I would love to get in contact with the marketing guys at the place you work for and be like, "Can I just give you guys a little bit of free marketing? I don't think it's going to get you anything, but I just want to be able to say I'm sponsored by the Food Guys or whatever the hell it's called.
Fruit
Or
Guys.
The Fruit Guys. Is that really what it's called? The Fruit Guys?
Really, the fruit guys.
It's like the Zyori podcast brought to you by the Fruit Guys. Look at this whole bucket of fruit. Is it good? Like, that is a sellout that I would do for free just because I love having access to organic fruit. Like, that is badass, man.
It was really good. What would you value that box at? Probably $75 to $80 if you
At
bought
least. Like, that was a lot. I don't know. I buy regular
25
fruit
pound
usually.
box of organic fruit.
It was huge. I mean, there was like 6 things of blueberries in there, a whole bunch of mangoes, bananas, oranges.
Yeah.
It's good shit.
Clementines,
Fruit guy.
pears, apples.
It's a good hook now. Now when I invite people over to podcast to be like, we've also got a lot of fruit. You want a mango, son?
We got a lot of fresh fruit laying around.
Although everybody keeps giving me shit for eating kiwis with the skin on them, and I to me that's.
Hear
not
me
a big
honest,
deal.
I've never seen anyone eat a kiwi with the skin on it.
Now I know the normal thing is you cut it in half, you scoop out the insides, but the skin, it's like the inside's real sweet and the skin's just a little bit tart, especially the organic ones. Like it tastes fucking good, man. It's like an apple.
Most,
you know, the
most
skin's got a
skins
little flavor.
they have a lot of nutrients that people just throw away.
I'm in, man. It's not that bad. People are they're prejudging. You know,
Yeah.
you got to try it. Just bite into the kiwi.
What about an orange? You just bite right into an orange?
I mean, sometimes I nibble on the
Tastes like
skin a little
shit.
bit, but it's way too bitter, man. I can't do it. I can't make it happen. My God. There was something else I wanted to ask you about, and I don't remember what it is. So that might be close to where we cut it here, man. That was 53 minutes.
No,
I
that
told
was
you it would
pretty good.
fly by.
That was fun.
It goes right on by. Oh, so you touched on it a little bit, but it's, you know, like I said, Joe Rogan was really the one that turned me on to that whole idea of like not organic farming, but a similar kind of concept, like, you know, of like killing your own, gathering your own meat,
Being
you know?
a little bit more sustainable, whether
Yeah.
it's your food or your energy output or anything like that. I mean, just any sustainability helps. You might not feel like you're making a huge difference, but
It adds up.
does.
And one of the concepts that he talks about a lot now is that, you know, like when you shoot a deer and, you know, you skin it and you chop it up and you process it, and then, you know, that night when you're grilling up some nice deer steaks and you're maybe not that night, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
you're
Should hang for a couple
you're
days.
like you're literally feeding your family with the delicious, tasty deer that you yourself killed that lived a totally natural, like great life. And one of the things he talks about is like if it's an old deer, like an old buck, like chances are it's pretty close to the end of its life. Like so many fucking deer die to predators. Like that thing's still so fucking old. Like you're not hurting the ecosystem, man. You're not out there.
Well, not here in New
baby
Jersey.
deers.
There's no fucking predators for those deer here, so they
guess
need
that's
to be
true.
hunted. That's why
Yeah.
you need that
They're
sort of.
taking them out.
Humans need to hunt deer.
Yeah.
So if people don't, deer would be causing way more accidents than
Yeah.
they do. So I'm all about.
I mean,
hunting,
I don't
especially
know
if you're
that
gonna
I'm-
eat it.
I don't know that I'm at the point where I want to pull the trigger on a deer, but people just keep hyping up that like there's this weird satisfaction that's irreplaceable of killing an animal and eating it and knowing I fucking did this shit. It's like
There
some
is.
instinctual.
I did that. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I was the one killing the chickens I've killed 2,500 chickens, turkeys, and I shot a pig once.
You're a madman.
Yeah, but it was you don't feel bad doing it because it feels natural. It's not like you're
Yeah.
just killing these chickens just to kill them. If
Yeah.
I was just out there shotgunning chickens, I mean,
out
if
there,
I
"All
killed
right, Dan,
if
line
I
'em
killed
up."
2,500 chickens with a gun just for the hell of it, yeah, that might be something to worry about. But I killed them in a controlled setting using
Right.
pretty state of the art killing equipment, and then which was not electrical, by the way.
Quick, painless.
Quick,
Well,
painless.
Not completely painless, but you know,
About as painless as we could make it for
Yeah.
ending a life.
minimal suffering.
And then cleaned and gutted and packaged and ready to go, ready for sale.
There is an odd, like you would say, like kind of a palpable feeling of like I did, like you feel like you're contributing. Sometimes with my
Yeah.
job, I think like what did I, I see people that I graduated with that are building like really cool project or products, like cutting edge apps that are like making, like finding new ways to get people out of debt or like really helping society by traveling or like innovating products to find new sustainable energy or water. It's like, what can I make fucking jokes about video games, like am I missing out on that, like where you have a job where you feel like you're making a difference? Is it worth it to grind out every day being at the farm to have that feeling?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It really
Fucking
is.
yeah.
I mean, if I could go back and do it again in a couple years, I probably would. If my financial situation is ever like stable enough where I can just go live and work on maybe not even someone else's farm at that point, but have my own land and do that, it's one of the most satisfying things I've ever experienced. And I can understand the people that you meet that do it and you could tell they've been doing it for a long time.
Right.
They're fucking committed to it, but they're not preaching about it. They're not like going out there and making podcasts about how awesome their life is and what different experiences they have
They're
because
just busy having an awesome life.
they're busy. Yeah, they're busy having an awesome life and doing shit. There's something to be said about doing that, and I don't know. This week is my first time having reliable Wi-Fi in the past year. I haven't been gaming. I haven't been searching the internet. I haven't been like checking out Reddit every day. I mean, there's shit I used to like to do, but I've been just working.
Yeah, that was a reality check for me a little bit. On your you drove up, got here Sunday night. You had to go to work Monday morning, but you were off early the first day. It was just check in, whatever. So you were home before noon.
Yeah.
And I had done a podcast that morning, and then I think I watched John Oliver and I watched Bill Maher and I did some laundry, and I was just kind of farting around. You're like, is this just a normal work day for you? You're just watching TV and listening to music and just dancing around? I'm like, yeah, kind of. It's, it's spread it out, work on weekends and shit. But I didn't realize, it's weird to think about that lifestyle where you're not watching TV or listening to stuff. Like I'm almost always either listening to a podcast, listening to music, like actively creating something like programming or in Photoshop or like setting up video shots or like watching things. Like I'm always consuming media or creating media.
Yeah.
That's like what I trained myself to do.
We had Netflix. We watched Netflix too, but we'd also try to ingest as much like farming media, I guess you could say, whether it's old-fashioned books or farming podcasts. There's usually some good shit on NPR. So that's where we got our sort of entertainment
Farmhookups.com.
Yeah. Farmers only.
Farmers only.
You don't have to be lonely.
You don't have to be lonely to use farmers only. Now that's a tagline I can get behind.
Yeah.
My God, man. It's pretty cool though. Hearing all that stuff and thinking about it really makes me wonder what I miss out on my tech life.
Well, just play a video game that simulates all of that.
Farm Simulator.
Yeah, play Farm Simulator or DayZ.
Farmville, I think it already exists.
Something where you can just fuck around in the world.
Yeah. Second Life. I'm gonna start a second. I'm gonna be the best goddamn.
Wait till there's
farmer
a
Second
virtual
Life has ever
reality
seen.
farming game. God, the world is gonna gobble that shit up.
Virtual reality farming.
Can you imagine virtual reality like picking ladybugs off of
my
a squash
God.
plant or?
That would be badass.
Be good.
Immigrant work simulator.
Yeah, man, I'd have a blast.
It's like Bug on a Wire except picking blueberries. My God, maybe you've got a future in game dev, Dan. I don't know.
Yeah.
Lead the creative team. All right, guys, I got a fresh one here. They just came out with Truck Driver Simulator. You were talking about
It's supposed
that.
to be fun.
It's like, I've seen a lot of people
stupid
streaming
as a
it, dude.
concept as it is. I mean, just driving a truck.
Dude,
I mean, I drive a Honda Civic, so driving an 18-wheeler
Yeah,
with a
dude,
full
you're
payload
shifted.
across Europe might be pretty fun.
I want to see what Berlin looks like. You know, you're coming in over the bridge, straight trucking.
Yeah.
16 days on that hog.
I've already got. Then the same company I think has a farm simulator where you can drive like a big tractor around and till a field. If you're gonna do that, just fucking sign up for a farm like I did and go till an actual field. Don't fucking play farm simulator. That's not a good
Tractor
advocacy.
Simulator, dude. That's
Yeah.
good
Oh,
shit.
it's a thing.
You know, I met two of the developers, the like two creators of Goat Simulator when I was in Seattle. They were pretty fucking cool.
Weird game though, right?
It's like
not actually simulating what it's like to have goats.
No, it's like Grand Theft Auto meets goats. You're like a goat that fucks shit up, and you get
Yeah.
points for like breaking stuff, and you can like you have like a sticky tongue that you can like use to wrap around. You can like spin around poles on your tongue and
That's
like
weird.
jump and fly, and like it's a whole thing. It's a whole nother world. So, Dan, this is usually where I'd say. So, where can people find you? Your Twitter, your website, your podcast, and people can plug all their shit. But
I have like
You have
zero
actually
presence.
nothing.
I have an Instagram, but I don't want to fucking tell you that.
okay, you're gonna keep it private.
Yeah, it's private Instagram.
Okay.
It's not actually
Cool.
private, but I just don't want to fucking tell you guys.
All right. Well, see if you can find Dan's Instagram, I guess. Good luck. I don't even think I know where. I don't think I've seen it or follow it. So maybe you can find it. I need to do Instagram more. I Instagrammed this morning, actually, my breakfast.
I don't Instagram that often.
I made
but
2 sausages from your farm.
They're good, right?
They're very good.
Yeah.
Delicious breakfast sausages. So, yeah, like I said, guys, this is part of the new changing podcast where I'm mixing in some gaming content with some real life content. I think trying to alternate is going to be good. As always, the podcast is going to be based on what the fuck's going on. So when there's a lot to talk about in Dota, we'll do that. And when there's not much to talk about, we're going to do this kind of stuff. What the Duck for Moon Duck should be coming up soon. We're going to do a post-major podcast. The idea is to get people on that were actually at the major. So, of course, everyone's traveling and needs to cool down and everyone's all polluted and sick. So time will tell what's actually going on with that, but we are going to do one soon, TM. And then, like I mentioned before, we've got the C Kappa tournament that starts on the 12th. So a lot of SEA content coming up on Moonduck TV. Myself and Mott going to be doing most of the casting for that, so that should be fun. And per usual, find the podcast on iTunes, ZyoriTV on Twitter and Facebook and all that shit. You know where to find it. Dan, any closing words for the internet and all your new fans out there?
It was a lot more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be. I was pretty nervous going into this, having never done one of these.
Good.
So, I don't know, it was fun.
You know, I didn't tell you because I
Pretty
didn't want to
natural.
scare you away, but last week I teased this podcast. I was like, we're going to have an organic farmer on at some point. It's going to be awesome. One of the comments on YouTube for the entire podcast, all he posted was, organic farmer, I bet he's going to be a douchebag.
Oh, man, I hope I don't come across as a douche.
I don't
didn't
think
mean
you
to.
did. I think that guy probably has some problems and might have been projecting a little
Yeah,
bit, so
well.
I wouldn't worry about it, buddy.
All right.
Well, thanks, man. That's it. All right, we're going to cut it,
What do
guys.
we do
We'll see you
now?
next time.
Wait,
What? What do you mean? You're good. Oh, good. We didn't prep for this. What do we do? Oh, God. Cut the local.